Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to this video of Shaquille O'Neil is 7 feet tall, but I could still take him. Oh wait, not in a fight. Shaq is a guy that really requires no introduction. You all know exactly who he is, but today we'll be looking at the time he tried to become a superhero and starred in the 1997 movie Steel. Now just who or what the fuck is a Steel? Well, Steel is actually a DC character, so this movie could canonically be in the DCEU and the Snyderverse. Nobody's ever said that it's not. At least I don't think they have. But in the comics, he was a guy who built his own mechanized super suit, out of steel of course, which effectively just mirrors the powers of Superman. And the character was actually supposed to replace Superman when he got killed by Doomsday in 1992. But Superman got revived and Steel just became one of his allies that nobody really cared about. But in saying all of that, the version of the character in this movie is completely different to the version from the comics. And I'm sure all one of the Steel fans were absolutely devastated by that. And apart from this movie, I think the only other live-action representation of Steel was in the Superman and Lois TV show, meaning Steel is actually a part of the Arrowverse. But an interview with the director revealed that the choice to cast Shaq in this movie was because in the mid-90s there was somewhat of a trend of taking NBA stars and trying to turn them into movie stars. I mean, just look at how successful Space Jam was. But the director hated this decision, and in this interview he said, "If you're gonna put Shaq in the lead, then you've got to at least have a major movie star next to him, or at the very least a few in some supporting roles so that the picture can open well." And I'm gonna come back to this interview a few times in this video because it actually gives us some really good insight into how this movie came into existence. That just shows that even the director of the movie knew that it was going to be a huge failure. And he was actually prepared to walk out of the movie a few times, but apparently all of the Warner Bros. Marketing research indicated that this movie was a good idea. And I think that just by looking at the current state of Hollywood, you can see that the market research done by studios is always wrong. But let's get into the actual movie, which of course opens with a 2-minute pre-credit sequence where we just see molten metal being poured. If you're gonna kill the initial momentum of your movie, at least give us something interesting to look at, like flying around DNA and shit. But we go from visual boredom and nothingness to a tank getting destroyed in the least interesting way possible. I understand that the military wants to be as efficient as possible and save resources, but what a wet fart of an opening to a movie. But it all turns out to just be a test for some super secret weapons.
That's enough! That's enough! My ass is on fire!
Thought I smelled some nuts roasting.
So I guess that's why they aren't blowing people into smithereens and cheering. I suppose that makes sense. And there he is, our not-so-gentle in this movie giant playing John Henry Irons. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that Steel's real name is John Henry Irons earlier, because it's stupid. But in this movie, he's a genius weapons designer, and I must say, an excellent womanizer.
Check the M curve.
It's perfect. Your new alloy really kept the barrel cool.
Cool, just like you.
Okay, I'll back.
She fucking loves it. But immediately, we're introduced to our antagonist, Lieutenant Nathaniel Burke, who is working with Steel and Sparky on this super secret weapons project. And it's okay for me to tell you that he's the antagonist straight away, because he does this in the first scene.
Nathaniel, no!
But in his defense, he was only trying to showcase how powerful those weapons are to the senator in order to get a promotion and more money. But in doing so, he did murder her, as well as crippling Sparky for life.
The senator had been killed, sir.
Lieutenant Sparks?
She had a severe spinal injury. Her legs had been crushed. She may never walk again.
What intensity level was set?
The maximum, sir.
Parameter that had never been tested. Or even approved for testing, is that correct?
But this film does deliver one of my favorite things to see in this world, which is just looking at how tall Shaq is compared to normal people. Like, what can you even do against a dude like that? But Nathaniel only got dismissed by the military instead of taken to jail for defying direct orders and firing an untested super powerful sonic cannon at maximum output, killing a senator and permanently injuring another military officer. Are those not crimes? And Steel in this movie is low-key an idiot anyway, because his boss is now like, hey, those weapons are super powerful, they could be really good at war to do horrific things like war, but he's really against killing.
And you like that idea?
Not killing him? Yes, ma'am, I do.
So why did you join the army? And why did you then go into the creating ridiculously powerful weapons division? And how are you not surprised that the extremely powerful weapons division wants to use your extremely powerful weapons to kill people? But whatever, Steel then goes back to his hometown of LA where he's terrible at basketball. But guess who else is in LA? Nathaniel Burke, of course, who goes to visit Big Willie, and I'm not making that joke. But Big Willie creates and sells arcade machines, so of course he would be the first person you go to ask this question.
I distribute arcade games, Burke.
I give jobs to at-risk kids. I'm a legitimate businessman.
How would you like to help me deal the next generation of super weapons?
If anyone can help you destroy the world, it's your local Pac-Man supplier. But Steel goes to see his grandma.
Hey, Grandma.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick.
Where we find out that he's being offered ridiculous amounts of money to work for weapons builders, but refuses to take them because...
No more weapons for me. A lot better for my soul.
So he decides to go work at a steel mill instead, doing steel mill things, even though he could very easily just put a clause in his contract that says, I will only create weapons designed to incapacitate and not kill. But steel mills are cool as well, I guess. And I really wanted his origin story to be him falling into a giant vat of molten steel and rising out of it as a steel man. But that's not what happens because this isn't a good movie. But to be fair, I can't really blame him for leaving all of the $1 million job opportunities to work at the only steel mill in the world where conventionally attractive young women also work, carry clipboards, and constantly check him out. Only never to be seen again. Meanwhile, the villain is doing evil things like getting more people injured in weapons tests. And this lady also threatens him.
Accidents can happen to you too, pal.
So cool, she could be like a guy on the inside who really wants to sabotage him that Steel and everybody can work with later on. But he immediately murders her. So this dude is not playing around. If you get slightly in his way, he will drop something on you and two completely innocent people. Then we hear some more about how much of a slut Steel is.
You remember the last time we were in a car together?
And find out that his little brother or cousin or nephew, I don't think they ever really tell you, he's just there. But he's called Martin, and he's just about to start working for Big Willie selling arcade machines, which I'm sure will have no bearing on the plot whatsoever. And while they're going around in this cop car for some reason, the bad guys are pulling a heist using the new super weapons, which of course leads to another sonic blast seriously injuring another girl that Steel has slept with. If you've ever been romantically involved with this guy, the universe is immediately out to mortally wound you and put you in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. There's no way that this is a coincidence. So now Steel is chasing after one of the suspects while saving other people's lives because he's literally better than everybody at literally everything, apart from getting out of the way of falling things. Why would you ever go that way? But then again, everybody who has died in this movie has died by something falling on them, so just the fact that he survived does mean that he's the best at it. He can also teleport. But Shaq gets shot by a gun that we've seen incapacitate a tank, so he just needs to have a little nap and have no injuries whatsoever.
What do you think blew over that squad car anyway? A twister?
I saw a street gang kid holding a USR Model 3.5 Sonic Eliminator.
A USR Model 3.5 Sonic Eliminator. Isn't this the guy who didn't want to kill people? Yet he was working on a gun that has the word Eliminator in its name. So he's either stupid or a hypocrite. And I think he's more of a hypocrite because he is fully prepared to murder children.
Purple is the marks. Them kids is buck wild.
Where the hell are they?
Back room at Benny's. It's where they usually eat.
They're gonna hang all right.
But Steele is not happy about these guns being out on the street, so he goes to recruit Sparky, breaks the windows of a veterans hospital just by opening them, and carries her out in a wheelchair while she's actively trying and shouting at him to stop.
Sometimes you don't get a choice about things. This here's a prime example of it happening.
And everybody else is just cheering them on. Like, these guys are literally high-fiving over a kidnapping right there. And this is where we're introduced to Uncle Joe, who runs a junkyard and can get his hands on literally anything. So the junkyard works as a kind of headquarters for them for the rest of the movie, with Sparky in the guy in a chair role. But no, not because of that, and Steele misses another free throw because apparently it's really important to his character that he's terrible at free throws.
Never could make the free throws.
Do you think they put that into the script because they hired Shaq, or was that just an integral part of the story anyway, and it just worked out good to get Shaq in? And this is the part of the movie where they make damn sure that you see the Superman Man of Steel tattoo that Shaq has on his arm. But if this movie is set in some kind of DC universe, does that mean that he got that tattoo because he really likes the real Superman that actually exists to him and lives in Metropolis? Or does that mean that just the comics and the idea of Superman exist in this universe and he's just a big fan? These are questions that can never be answered. We then get a montage of everybody working and Steele creating his suit. And you'd expect the music to be very like epic and foreboding, like they're preparing for an epic battle sort of thing. But it's actually set to what I think is an original song for the movie. Which I think just makes no sense for this movie at all, let alone being the montage song. So now Steele has his steel sledgehammer and we finally get to see the suit with some more amazingly subtle dialogue.
Well, I'll be damned. John Henry Irons has turned himself into the Man of Steel.
Bruce Wayne's parents have just been mugged and it's down to Steele to bring justice.
Just give them their stuff back and we won't have a problem.
Ain't got no problem.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah, there's a reason why this is known as one of the worst suits in cinema history. Which, according to the director, was only so terrible because they didn't have enough time to create a better suit. And just... come on, just look at that. Like, compare that suit to the ones in the comics, and they're just nowhere near. And the costume designer who worked on this suit was actually Greg Canham. And if you don't know his name, you'll know his work. He worked on Titanic, Van Helsing, The Lost Boys, The Mask, Bicentennial Man, White Chicks, Watchmen, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Big Mama's House 2, and has won 4 Oscars for his work in Vice, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Bram Stoker's Dracula. So he's a pretty fucking big deal. And he's done so much more than just these movies, but the fact that he managed to go from creating one of the worst superhero suits ever seen in cinema to winning Oscars is just, it's pretty cool to me. But then Steele gets shot, like, a lot.
Man, please, I'm about to smoke you like a blunt.
Which of course does absolutely nothing because his suit is extremely bulletproof because of course it is. Except, I ran the numbers because I have no life and looked into just how impossible this suit of solid steel armor really is. So the average suit of armor made from steel weighs around 15 to 25 kilograms and is around 0.8 to 1.5 millimeters thick. But that could never stop a bullet. Like, surely everybody knows that a suit of medieval armor would never stop a bullet. Even Steele knows this, like, well, the character, not the metal, which is why he made the suit thicker. 6.55 millimeters is usually enough steel to stop a bullet. Now 6.55 millimeters may not sound like all that much. I mean, that's just the size of my penis. Why did I say that? That's not even a good joke. But in order to build armor that thick, you would have to work with 6-gauge steel, which according to this guy on Quora, has never and could never be made. But let's say that Big Man Steel has somehow figured it out. He is so big brain that he is the first person ever in history to build a suit of armor like this. Well, it would still be unusable because at the low end, it would weigh around 65.4 kilos, and on the high end, it would weigh more around 109 kilos. And I know that Shaq is a big dude, but he is not running and jumping around and fighting crime with 109 kilograms strapped all around his body. I mean, that's all if my math is even correct. I mean, why are you guys even trusting me to do math? But it's here that we see that Steel's hammer is no ordinary hammer.
Johnny!
It's hammer time.
So those guys are dead. Like, they went from 60 to 0 miles per hour in half a second and got launched through the windshield. For a guy who doesn't like killing, he sure does it super easily. The hammer also has a switch that magnetizes his suit. Which does point out the fact that his biggest enemy is just this thing. And the fact that one of these doesn't show up in the movie at all, even though his headquarters is a junkyard, is just ridiculous. But the cops chase after him because they hate vigilantes, I guess, but he manages to escape on his Steeler cycle, and because Sparky hacks the entire city's transport systems and changes all of the traffic lights for him. Which is an actual crime that almost causes multiple horrific accidents for innocent people. But it's okay because I don't know movie. Then a few days later, the bad guys launch a huge heist on the Federal Reserve. So of course Steel shows up and absolutely tanks every shot from a weapon that we've seen destroy actual tanks and can also do this. If it can instantly explode a car and a helicopter, it should instantly explode a Shaq. But the exact same thing happens. All of the bad guys get away and Shaq has to escape from the cops on a Steeler cycle. And so far, he's a pretty useless vigilante that has only stopped 1 out of 3 crimes that he's encountered. And I've got to say that all of the action in this movie just feels so flat and bland. Partly because Steel is literally invincible, but also because the music just adds nothing and it all just feels like nothing. It's just visual noise, but not the cool Michael Bay kind, more the slice of bread falling over kind. Actually, that might be too high a praise for this movie. But Steel goes back to his grandma's house, who is very suspicious about him being the vigilante, because how many other 7-foot-tall dudes with knowledge of high-tech weaponry can possibly be living in their neighborhood? Then the police bust in because Burke figured out that he was Steel by looking at him and wondering out who is the only 7-foot-tall dude with knowledge of high-powered weaponry in the neighborhood. But in the lineup, the couple that saved him earlier doesn't rat him out because he's a good guy, so that makes all of this basically pointless. But now Burke is preparing to sell all of his weapons.
High-tech weapons not available in any store, and if you act now...
How does a buyer make contact?
In this day and age, there's only one way.
The internet?
Damn right. We can pick up all kinds of good crap. Not just porno.
Yeah, I forgot that this film came out in 1997, which I guess was the time where underground high-tech weapons were super easy for any group of white supremacists to buy. But he gets out of prison and goes to stop the meetup where all the guns are actually being sold, where Sparky gets kidnapped and Burke murders Big Willie for more power, and after a brief standoff with Burke where he reveals his master plan that the audience knew the entire time, guess who saves the day?
Kill him! Maybe not.
Yeah, I love a stupidly weaponized wheelchair. It even has 2 fire extinguishers that act as boosters. But it doesn't really matter because Burke has a backup hostage of Steel's cousin or nephew or little brother, but they end up getting locked in a room with a live grenade, and you'll never guess how they get out of it.
Throw it! Quick! Throw it!
I never make these.
with a free throw. Him being terrible at free throws was actually a super important character arc. And it's actually the only character arc that he goes through this entire movie, since he's pretty much been a perfect human the entire time. Even Sparky has the whole coming to terms with being disabled character arc going on. He's just a good, polite guy with solid morals that does nothing wrong the entire movie, making him entirely one note, which makes him the exact opposite of what any protagonist should be. But then the way that the villain is defeated in this movie is the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a while.
Let's see how your armor stands up to this. You're going to the scrap heap. Oh no!
That's it. He's just gone. The villain was killed by accident. They could have easily had a whole thing where Burke was about to kill his nephew, cousin, little brother, and the only way to save him was for Steel to kill Burke, therefore going against all of his morals. Like in the actual Man of Steel movie, where Superman has to kill Zod in order to save those people. Although even that was after he probably killed thousands by fighting through buildings and stuff, so maybe that's not the best example, but you know what I'm trying to say. You just have to write a moment where the main character has all of their morals and ideals challenged, so that they have to make a complex and character-changing decision. That's just how you make a movie. Steel in this is just a good guy. And that's it. It would have been so easy for them to give him a proper motivation as well. Just kill Sparky at the start instead of making her disabled. Boom, he immediately has a revenge motivation to go after Burke. Maybe he was always against killing until Burke killed Sparky, and then the grief drove him to such a point where he doesn't care anymore. Anybody who gets in his way will die, and he just wants to kill Burke. And the woman cop that they established already had a pre-existing relationship with Steel could become his new sidekick. They could have the romance instead, and because she's a cop, she can help Steel re-establish his morals and decide to forgive Burke. Steel and everybody go to leave, but then Burke tries to kill his nephew, cousin, brother guy, so then he has to kill Burke in order to save somebody that he loves, which is something that he failed to do at the start of the movie. Like a character arc and actual development. I mean, that idea may not be the perfect movie and entirely cliche, but it's better than what we got, and it took me 5 minutes to come up with. But the military arrests all the surviving criminals, and that's pretty much the movie. It's fine. It would have been better if he actually used the sledgehammer he had for the entire movie as a sledgehammer at least once, but I guess you can't have everything. On a production budget of $16 million, and if you add on marketing and stuff, it will probably be around $20 million, it grossed $1.6 million at the box office. Holy shit, this film tanked so hard. Even on this website, it points out that the film made back 0.1 times its production budget. No wonder we never saw Shaq lead in anything after this. Which is why at some point I'd love to go even further back to 1996 when Shaq starred as a genie in Kazan. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers and it really does mean a lot to me. And when we do hit 1,000 subscribers, I will be doing a live stream where every time I die in Elden Ring, I have to take a shot. Yeah. And if you do subscribe, then I will create my own suit out of tinfoil and get stabbed immediately. Have a great day.